Hello students, in this chapter control and coordination we will go through so many terminologies like stimulus, response, receptors, impulse, effector, receptors, sensory neuron, motor neuron. So in this video I am going to tell you detailed about all the terminologies which have been used in this chapter. So first thing is stimulus, which I used in my previous lecture. So what is stimulus? So stimulus, you can say that it is an agent, a factor, or a chemical change in, it can be an agent, factor, or a chemical, or a change in external or internal environment, which brings about a reaction in the organism. Uh, if I explain it taking an example, like in winter season we wear woolen clothes, in um, summer season we wear cotton cloths. So this is called an stimulus because in winter season there is so much of cold, so we have to just resist that coldness and we wear woolen clothes. So this coldness is a stimulus. In case of summer season there is no coldness, there is a lot of um, hotness, sweating, etc. So we wear cotton cloths to overcome, to cope up with the situation. So this hotness, this sweatness, this is the stimulus by which we respond by wearing cotton cloths or by wearing the woolen cloths. So this response can be anything. If we eat some good foods and we feel happy, this is also a kind of stimulus, because here the food is a stimulus which and the response is happiness. So this can be an agent, factor, chemical change in, or change in external and internal environment, and which bring reaction in the organism. So this is called a stimulus. There is also example like when we touch any hot object we just remove our hands back, so that hotness of the object is also a stimulus by which we respond by just pulling our hand back. So I think now you understood what is the meaning of stimulus. Then second is response. So response, it is the reaction of the organism, as I told you, reaction of the organism to a stimulus. I think these two uh, terminologies now it's clear to you. So for perceiving stimuli and providing response, the nervous system requires receptors and effectors. As I told you that when we touch the hot object we just pull our hand back. So this hand there, so this is effector. We just pull our hand back, it means that this is effector. But when we touch this hand to a hot object, means there are something in our muscles tissues which are capable of receiving that hotness. So this is called sensory nerves, and so this is the receptors, and when we pull it back, this is called effector. So there is receptors. So receptors are cells, tissues and organs which are capable of receiving, which are capable of receiving particular stimuli and it initiate impulse and it can be picked up by sensory nerve. So sensory nerve or sensory in function, this is also called as afferent neurons, which convey the masses towards the brain. So I just explain it here only what is the meaning of sensory neuron. Sensory neuron is also known as afferent neuron. So the receptor pass information to the brain by a type of nerve cells called sensory neurons. So this receptor pass the message to the brain by this sensory neuron. So then there is impulse. I used this term in last video, impulse. So what is impulse? It is a self-propagated electrical impulse or not impulse, it's current that runs along the surface of the nerve fiber, surface of the nerve fiber for passage of information. So I think now it's clear that receptor has some impulse which is taken by sensory neuron and given it to brain. So this impulse is self-propagated electric current that runs along the surface of nerve fiber. Then last one is the effector. Effector are muscles, as I told you about the hand, glands, tissues or cells which act in response to a message which is received from the nervous system, which is received from the nervous system. So as I shown you here that stimulus, then receptor organ, then sensory nerve, brain and spinal cord, then motor neuron. So this effector organ will work according to the message conveyed by the motor neuron. So this receptor convey this message to sensory neuron convey this message to brain, and brain will convey this message to motor neuron by the impulses, and this is also gone here through the impulses, and again from brain to motor neuron through this impulse, and then it goes to the effector organ or effector muscle or effector tissue or effector glands. So let's talk about something about the motor neuron. So what is motor neuron? Motor neuron is also known as efferent. Sensory was afferent and this is efferent. Efferent neuron means sensory or afferent neuron convey the message towards the brain, and this is a afferent, and this motor neuron conveys the message away from the brain. This is motor, away from the brain, so that's it is efferent neuron. So it transmit information from the brain to the effector organ or muscle cells. And what about the brain? Brain is the center for analysis of information, and this is also called as interneuron. Means brain will decide what to do and what not to do, and that's why uh, the sensory neuron convey this message. It sensory neuron receive the message from the receptor, then it give to brain act as an interneuron and analyze the message. This is also called as relay neuron. Analyze the message, then it goes to motor neuron, receptor, sensory, then brain. This is also called the interneuron or relay neuron. Then it goes to motor neuron. Then there is effector muscles or effector cells or effector organs. So this is all about the information, how it travels from one part to another part. There is something more to say, like there are sensory receptors, and these sensory receptors are photoreceptors. Photoreceptor, it detect light from image and form images. Then gustatoreceptor, so what will be the organ involved in this photoreceptor? Of course eye. Then gustatoreceptor, so it detect taste, so like located in taste buds. Then there is thermoreceptor, it detect heat and cold, so where it should be located? In skin. Then olfactory receptor, so it detect smell, heat and cold. This smell, this taste, this light and form images. So olfactory receptor, it detects smell, So it should be located in nose or nasal cavities. Then phonoreceptor, so it detects sound, so it should be located in inner ear. Then statoreceptor, it's very important, it detects change in equilibrium means balance. So it is also present in inner ear. Point to be noted because ear is the balancing organ. Then tango receptor, it for tactile tactile or touch response. So of course it is present in skin. Then there is a pain and pressure receptor. So it is located in deeper layer of skin. So this is all about the receptors: stimulus, response, receptor, sensory neuron, impulse, effector, and the motor neuron.